I do HR professionals not work like IT does because they came from IT? You guys might have some really good answers on that. I had questions on what if I'm a developer who's selling to vendors, what is the most critical thing I have to do, which I thought was kind of an interesting question. Because I don't know if you guys know this, but in the market, most of the vendors don't do all their own development. They outsource a lot of it. And so those little companies have built up around what they're doing. And so they're trying to figure out how to kind of manage this AI conversation. And then probably the most interesting one is we had a really good conversation with a couple of people who were talking about skills. And they're getting ready to look at a couple of vendors. They're talking about TechWolf or SkyHive or one of those guys. But they were trying to figure out how they kept the skills management conversation from being just about buying the technology versus sort of actually building it into the culture of the organization. And so that was an interesting conversation because it's a real issue. You guys have asked about it on the cohort sessions when we've been doing them. So skills, although it's not top of mind for buying this year, it is top of mind for how do I get it into my organization.
Welcome to the HR Huddle podcast, presented by Sapient Insights Group, the ultimate resource for all things HR. It's time to get in the huddle.
Welcome everyone to the 2024 HR Technology Conference, Sapient Insights Group's post-show spectacular. And not only have I brought you the entire Sapient Insights crew here with Susan and Teri, myself, and Cliff, but this time we also have a whole crew joining us from our HR System Strategy cohort this year. So practitioner insights are coming, so you want to stay for this show. So let's start with us and just talk a little bit about what we're seeing, and then I'll kind of go around the group here and we'll get each of you to talk a little about some of your favorite things you're seeing this week. Does that work for everyone?
Love it.
Let's
do it.
All right. Teri, why don't I start with you? This is, I don't know how many years you've been here. I know this is probably like my 10th at this point, but what do you think of the show this year? Your session was packed on the idea of data governance. That was amazing.
That was amazing, and it's been a great show. I don't know how many I've been to, but I've been to a lot.
Shows our age.
Yeah, I've been to a lot of these shows, going way back to when this room, the expo hall, which is where we're sitting right now, was much, much smaller.
Yes.
Very, very tiny compared to what it is today. There's probably over 500 vendors here in the expo hall at the very least. And you know, people are hungry for information. I mean, the amount of people that showed up to our data governance session that I did with Danielle, I was completely blown away because the title to me, I was kind of like, I don't know if people are going to get excited about this. They were just extremely interested in having more information and trying to understand how they're going to do this themselves in their own organization. So we got a lot of good feedback, a lot of good reviews, and it was standing room only.
It really was.
I heard there were 10,000 people there.
There were 10,000
Maybe not 10,000. But my bet is about 500. What I was surprised by is that they weren't just there listed, because it was a panel. It's like, it's not a big presentation. There was a few things, but they were like enthralled and like just really listening to the conversation. And Danielle Lucian, who did the session with you, like the insights she gave from the work that she's doing at Sanofi is amazing. So that was, I think, probably one of the highlights so far.
Yeah, it definitely was.
Tuesday morning.
It was Tuesday morning, first thing Tuesday. Yeah.
So data governance is a hot topic, is what we learned.
Yes.
Susan, how about you? I mean, you've been running around. You got your first Ask the Expert this season, right?
I did. So this is, I've been doing this show for, 15, 16 years. I remember the way back days when it was, at the Navy Pier. So it's been a minute. I think the Ask the Expert sessions are pretty exciting. I think that's new this year.
It's new. That's something they haven't done previously.
Having the opportunity to like get one-on-one with clients and other practitioners and other vendors, and have them be able to ask us anything that they want to ask on the topic that we have eminence in. So I don't know. How was your Ask the Expert session this morning?
I think there was a winding line, which was good, but I'd love to get our group's perspective on this. I had questions about, it was about the HR system strategy, is what the Ask the Expert was on. I had people come up who asked about why do HR professionals not work like IT does because they came from IT. You guys might have some really good answers on that. I had questions on what if I'm a developer who's selling to vendors, what is the most critical thing I have to do, which I thought was kind of an interesting question, because I don't know if you guys know this, but in the market, most of the vendors don't do all their own development. They outsource a lot of it. And so those little companies have built up around what they're doing. And so they're trying to figure out how to kind of manage this AI conversation. And then probably the most interesting one is we had a really good conversation with a couple of people who were talking about skills. And they're getting ready to look at a couple of vendors. They're talking about TechWolf or SkyHive or one of those guys. But they were trying to figure out how they kept the skills management conversation from being just about buying the technology versus sort of actually building it into the culture of the organization. And so that was an interesting conversation because it's a real issue. You guys have asked about it on the cohort sessions when we've been doing them. So skills, although it's not top of mind for buying this year, it is top of mind for how do I get it into my organization. So it was really fun. You're going to be excited when you get into yours.
I can't wait to get over and talk to folks in my session. And I'll tell you, my favorite part of HR Tech is the startup corral.
Oh, yeah.
I absolutely love seeing entrepreneurs at this event, and that's near and dear to my heart as an entrepreneur myself. Having the opportunity to talk with the owners, the folks who are in the organization every single day, to see their passion and creativity. I mean, there's a ton of innovation out there this year. It took me a minute to find them.
Yeah.
But as I walked through this morning, I was overwhelmed with the number and the quality and the diversity of the different solutions and applications and innovative products that are out there this year in the startup.
We're definitely seeing a lot more on global. We saw a lot of global services when I walked by there, right?
Yeah.
I did see a little bit of skills in the startup. I also saw, I thought, which was kind of interesting, a lot of startups who are sort of doing benefits, labor stuff, right? Which I thought was sort of interesting too.
I even saw some services out there.
Yeah.
And from the survey report that we released earlier this week, that's a hot topic, is organizations adding services to their technology environment.
Yeah, and the budget they've got.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we turn to our cohort members here and get a little bit of their insight, and then we'll come back and grab you, Cliff. Because the thing about Cliff is everywhere he's been walking around, because he's been wearing the pink jacket, which has been amazing, is they're like, everybody knows him. It's kind of like Cheers when everybody walked in, they're like, oh, hey! Everybody knows Cliff right now, so we'll get your perspective on sort of how that big group's going. But if you guys wouldn't mind maybe telling your name and just a little bit about where you're from, and then talk about what you felt this year's HR Technology Conference has been like for you.
Sure. I'm Teri Travis. I lead HR operations for a large contracting company. HR Tech this year has been, this is only my second.
Okay.
It's been very different than last year because of the knowledge I've learned in the last year. So the way that I approach the conference has been very different than how I approached the conference last year. And I've edited it as well. On the fly. There are a few distractions. And some of them have paid off really, really well. I have run into vendors that I'm like, oh, I had no idea you even existed, and I had no idea you even had a solution that might be something I want to look at some point soon. So that's been really fruitful and helpful.
Very good.
We edit our research sometimes, even at this moment we're releasing it. We update it based on, okay, this is what's happening.
What we're seeing. Yeah, that's part of why we love being here while we're in the middle of the final writing. But
Exactly.
I know you had mentioned that you were actually going to see another vendor who wasn't at his booth, so just to highlight for vendors who are out there, and you bumped into the guy next to him and was very interested in what he was doing, right?
I was very interested in what they were doing. I see an I-9 vendor, they weren't there, and I bumped into the vendor next door, and they do background checks, and I-9s. We have a platform that does all of it. Didn't know you existed. This is fabulous. Let's learn what you're doing, what's happening. You integrate to Workday. How exciting! You know, so it was very fruitful and surprising. I wasn't even here looking for that. So it was great.
Those are the fun synergies that I think actually make this expo hall probably the best.
Yeah.
How about Deanna on your end? Maybe can you introduce yourself and maybe some of the things you're finding here this year?
So I'm Deanna Fortson. I work for a software company and I do our HR and benefits. So this is my second year. So like Carrie's, last year was my first one, and I was super excited both times. I was like, this year my focus actually got tailored back a little bit because there's things that I already know after going through the cohort, and now I'm pretty much like putting that to the test. Okay, what I've learned, how is that helping me, lead things, in my company, and how can I best make use of the time that I have. So also I'd like to walk around talking to some of the vendors and stopping by the Pitch Fest.
Yeah.
That was good. My favorite one has been, I have two favorites. All right, so first was the Ask the Experts. I mean, that one-on-one was really good. Even when other people walk up and we will all be like, yeah, me too. And we would just be able to gel and make some connections that way. And also I participated with IRA Monday.
Yeah.
So we had all day of studying for the HRIP exam, and then we had a meeting and awards, and that was a really good opportunity to kick off into the conference and get to know.
And we should note that Deanne won a very prestigious award with IRM.
So did Sapien.
Yeah, well, there's a few. Yeah.
That was a surprise.
Yeah. Hunter, how about you? I mean, is this your first one or not?
So I'm Hunter Sadler. I work for a government contractor based out of the DC area.
Yeah.
About 23,000 employees. This is my second HR Tech conference. So I joined Carrie last year as a peer and now as a colleague. I've really enjoyed the conference. I think a lot of the questions I had coming out of last year about how point solutions can positively or negatively impact the employee experience. This year, the AI thread that is going to improve the employee experience moving forward has been incredibly insightful. And like I said, it answered a lot of the questions I had coming out of last year. How do we tie it all together and how it can impact the employee experience? They don't need to know that they're going to these various systems. We need to create an experience for them where we can give them their answers, their outcomes, their actions. So that's been really cool to see. It's how do we now turn that into how we implement our employee experience to improve
The hard work of it, right?
Yeah. Right. There's a lot of solutions out there focused on that, and it's something that I think would help every employer and employee experience, and then you get better engagement. You can start to really engage with your employees and understand what motivates them and how we can work towards improving their, what they do for a living. You want them to be happy, and then they'll tell their friends, and then we can grow as an organization. So it's been really enlightening. I've also met investors. Last year I did not meet investors, so it was really interesting to hear what they're doing here and their feedback on their view of the world, and they wanted to hear our feedback. And is it just a sales pitch they're hearing, or what's it like boots on the ground? So
That's great.
I will tell you, your guys' perspective on the vendors you're using is really important, especially to investors. I mean, it's that's what our whole research is based off of, but everybody wants to hear what you guys think about it. So we'll give all the tea away here at this show, but it's definitely, I'm not surprised you guys were getting tapped to give your opinion. Okay, we've got to do probably the one fun question. What's the favorite tchotchke? Do we have a favorite tchotchke from this year?
I have found 2 llamas.
2 llamas. Llamas, all right.
2 separate llamas from 2 separate vendors. They're both fabulous and soft and mushy.
Oh,
Very, very cool. Yes. All right, I like that. How about you guys? Anything interesting on your side?
I had like an airbrushed water bottle. So they did it with markers. So I got Anna, because my daughter's name is Deanna, so that way she can have it.
Aww.
When she takes it. We can both use it. Okay.
Yeah.
So totally customized.
Yes,
water
it
bottle.
was pretty.
Love that.
So I've been pretty selective with my carry-on size, what I can and cannot get, but I got a signed book.
Oh, yes.
So not a tchotchke.
Bruce computer
Doing some compliments to the teachers, what I'm hearing there.
But no, there's a lot of good tchotchkes out here. We
Yeah.
actually have someone from our career marketing team that is running around and making
Oh.
changes to what she plans to buy to bring a different presence for our company to future conference or future events. So yeah, I've been very selective.
Yeah. How about you guys? Did I pick up any tchotchkes that you really liked? I mean, we don't usually do that too much, but
Well, no, I mean, I think I mentioned, I think for any vendors watching this, and you're always asking, what's out there? The old collapsible dog bowls, what happened? Game. But I do like anything that has the personalization. As you mentioned, having anything where they have the airbrush and you can do something fun and not nothing wrong with the hats and the pens and anything like that. If you want to stand out, that's what you take.
Yeah, I saw somebody doing caricatures.
Yeah.
Like the little caricatures that actually fit in your badge slots.
Those are very cool. Yeah. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
We're all pointing. Summer's behind the camera, and there you go. Summer's back.
That's cool. I didn't know that thing spun around.
Come on, Summer. You have to be on. This is Summer Orellano, who works with us, and this is not only her first HR tech experience, but she's coming here just fresh, not knowing any of these vendors, so that she gets a true fresh perspective.
Come on up, Summer.
Summer Orellano, come on down.
Time is your time participant. So, Summer, I will ask a question so you get started. What's your first impression of this event? You've not been here at all yet before, right?
No, I've never been to an event like this other than I was thinking it was going to be like a flea market. It is not like a flea market. It's a lot bigger.
There is some bartering.
Give me your badge and we'll give you some.
Definitely way bigger.
Yeah.
And where do they put it all when it's all over?
That's what she asked me, what happens to all this stuff when the show is
That's
over?
my biggest thing is where does it all go?
To the FedEx office.
Yes.
Right. They're keeping FedEx in business.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But it's been good.
And
What are your favorite tchotchkes?
Oh, I got a real Stanley, not just like, an off-market Stanley, real, and a screen printed shirt, which was pretty cool because you got to watch
nice.
them actually screen print.
Yeah. Very cool.
And can you spell tchotchke?
I didn't even know what tchotchke meant until I got here. Yeah.
Swag.
Sorry, it's swag. I tend to use the word tchotchke, just old habits.
Yeah.
Summer got me some lip balm, which I greatly appreciated and I need right now.
That
But
lip balm, I thought it was a bouncy ball, and I was going to throw it on the ground, and then I realized, I was like, oh, it's lip balm.
The round ones?
Yeah, it's a round ball.
I said, oh, I'll take that.
Might have hurt someone.
I think my swag game is pretty sad. I didn't take anything because I always feel bad because I know how much they're saving it for people who are going to buy the products. But a guy did walk up and give me a flashlight, and I was like, oh, I'll take this. I can always use flashlights.
Yeah.
So same here.
Yeah.
I live in Florida. We are under a hurricane watch, and some of us are under a warning. So there are never enough flashlights at my house. So I loved the flashlight. And the other thing that I got was a signed book. One of our vendors has written or co-authored a book that is about the trials and tribulations of HR technology. And it's a little bit fact, it's a little bit fiction, and she gave me a signed book and put a little special note in there.
Yes,
So
thank
that
you,
was-
Amberly, for that.
That
Oh,
was
is that Amberly?
that
Oh,
was
I
my
haven't seen
favorite
her
thing.
book
So
yet.
thank you,
Yeah.
Amberly.
I have to get one.
I'm sure she's got one for
Yeah,
you.
I definitely, need to. Sorry guys, we're off chanting on things. But we probably should talk a little bit, well, any other perspective, Summer, from like being the first time, like how big it is and how much walking there is?
It's a lot of walking. I walked 8 miles in heels yesterday.
That is the first timer's initiation process, right?
It must
Y'all
be.
didn't warn her ahead of time.
No, I was warned. I was just like, I can't wear tennis shoes. And today I was like, I'm wearing tennis. But overall, it's a good experience. And I came into it confident, and I'm leaving confident. I think it was a success for our team.
It was a huge success, and it was a huge success because of you.
Yes.
So let's do a little round of
Yes,
applause for all
thank
the
you,
ways
Summer.
to help us out. So, do we want to talk a little bit about sessions then? So, I don't know, you haven't actually attached a thing, but
Let's
I know.
bring Cliff back in.
Yeah.
Your jacket, thank you guys.
Yeah. Thanks, Summer.
Delightful host. Thank you.
We've delivered several sessions. We've got one more to go on skills. What have you guys seen at the event? I mean, have you been into it? I know you said you spent a lot of time here on the expo floor, all more than last year.
Right.
But were there any sessions that impressed you?
Well, besides Stacey's, please do
Yeah,
mention
you know.
Stacey's keynote mega session.
And Teri's
Data
session,
governance.
data governance. But no, honestly, I'd be interested because we don't get to see them. I never get to see the sessions.
Oh, yes. Of course, yours is always Of course, Josh Merson's keynote. I mean, always a wealth of knowledge comes out of that. If I go see Josh and you over here, the conference pays for itself. I mean, there's so much knowledge from both of you. That's been fantastic. I've limited how many sessions I'm going to. Again, I've changed my perspective a little bit this year. Some of the ones get a little salesy, so I move on.
Little hint, everyone.
Yeah.
Salesy doesn't do well on events. Yeah.
Exactly. I really want to hear about solutions and really want to hear about practical been a ton of detail about that yet. I'm hoping that, in future years that will come. But it's, as far as favorite, I don't know, my time on the floor has been really good because I've learned so much from so many vendors. I have stopped to talk to ones that I didn't even have a desire to investigate, and I've learned something from them.
You're okay to. Is there anything that you want to mention that you think are worth probably paying attention?
Question.
Not to put you on the spot.
No,
but yeah.
The one I was referencing earlier is DISA. When I stumbled upon that they do background checks and drug screening and the I-9 process, the fact that it's all of it and they have a Workday API is beautiful and amazing, and they have a ton of other compliance functionality in their tool as well when it comes to drug screening and background checks that helps you automate a lot of manual things that you're doing today. So it was really interesting, and it was a really nice find that I would not have been looking for.
Very cool. Yeah, and it's always fun when you find those ones too.
Yeah.
How
And
about,
okay, just a second. It sounds like that vendor listened to you and what you were looking for, and then figured out how their solution might fit.
Well, they heard me wanting to talk to the one next door that wasn't there. And then they had a caricature artist. So I said, sure, I'll sit down. And then they do a big one like this. And he did an amazing job. It was really good. He made me look better in my caricature. And they said, well, we'll just talk to you. I was like, okay, great. They're like, well, we do background checks, and I-9s. I said, wait, what? That's what I wanted to talk about. Tell me more.
And so for our vendor colleagues who are out on the expo floor, I've heard several people say, gosh, where are all the buyers? Where are all the practitioners? They're here, and they are watching, and they are listening, and it sounds like those vendors who are approaching our buyer colleagues with kind of an open mind and listening to what you're looking for versus here's what I have to sell are probably doing a little better.
Yes, that is a true story. I have noticed the engagement, the level of conversation is better this year than it was last year. There is a bit more listening going on. Those are the ones I will stay and talk to you if you are listening to the problem we're trying to solve. Listening to what's happening.
That's good advice. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, very good input. How about you guys on the other side here? Any vendors you guys, or anything sessions you guys feel are really important this year?
I haven't attended a whole lot of the sessions. I did the keynotes. The first day, I walked in, I had to stay on the wall, and I walked out. I'm mature enough. I didn't want to do that anymore. But it was, that show actually the interest that people had in the topic, and I said, well, let's see why I take the spot. But again, it was really to ask the experts, and then walking around, I gained so much knowledge from that, and just having those one-on-one conversations with people. And I can't necessarily think off the top of my head exact vendors, but some of the ones that had the Sapient Insights, the anniversary.
What an award!
I did walk up to one, and I didn't notice that at first until we were talking. I went so they had compliance, and I'm gonna mess up the names. I don't want to mess it up, but it was blue. Okay, and I was looking at compliance and whistleblower, and I saw they did a whole lot more, and they were actually part of a vendor solution that I already have.
Oh, cool.
And I said, oh my goodness. So we had a really good conversation, and they just started pounding me with information, and it was just right. So I thought that was really good, and I just got a lot of value, out of that.
Yeah.
And again, just listening to other people talk. I just really wanted to take it in, but take in the right stuff.
I think that's right. The sessions are great, but the one-on-one conversations that you can have with people here, whether it's other practitioners or vendors or thought leaders or analysts, there's just such an opportunity to connect with a lot of different people with a lot of different perspectives to help you sort of shape what it is you're trying to do with your HR technology. It's amazing. And the next time you come, set up as many appointments as you can in advance, because it's hard to find people. You want to make the best use of your time. If you didn't do that this year, next time, I think that's always a huge help. We do that, not that we always make all of them.
I didn't make all of my appointments this week. I am so sorry.
Yeah,
I will make it up to you. I promise.
The constant thing of, were we supposed to be at Starbucks or at the analyst room or at the expo hall?
Yeah.
But that's also something that, is obviously
Yeah,
a
a
big
lot of
help.
people don't know that you can do that with vendors. You can reach out and say, I want to do a session while you're here.
Yep.
Yeah, we just, and I made some of them. Some I canceled out because I didn't.
Good.
I talked to them a little earlier.
Good.
I had fun doing karaoke. That
Oh,
was
oh,
fun.
that's very cool.
Nice.
And what
Gotta have a
song
little
did you
fun while
sing?
you're here.
I got another one.
Yeah.
Silent, I hope.
Yeah.
Okay,
The
that's
mic
a
wasn't
famously
on.
died.
The mic wasn't on.
Okay, and Cliff, when I asked, how do you know that?
This isn't my first HR tech.
All right, Hunter, how about you?
Yeah, so one of the first, well, a colleague of mine told me how to take notes in OneNote with pictures directly into OneNote, then we can send it on. So I turned my phone off for this, so I'm not able to flip back through. So I'm trying to pull out the ones that were most memorable. I went and saw Oracle. We're Workday customer.
Yeah.
I wanted to see what other ACMs are out there, what they're doing compared to what we're seeing, boots on the ground coming out. And I was pretty impressed with what Oracle would come up with and how they're leaning forward a lot on the employee experience with AI. And so I thought that was really good, and that kind of was one of the first sessions I went to, and then the AI theme for the employee experience, kind of what I talked about earlier. I ended up stopping by one on the way to lunch yesterday, and it was about how to assess your current stack and how to move forward. And it was a slightly different twist on what we've been learning in the cohort, but getting it from a different angle, I was like, okay, found sound fundamentals on what we've been discussing, but a couple tweaks that I could see being
Add to the pitch?
to another tool in the tool belt to look at it. And as you're talking to people, maybe one angle isn't resonating, so having another tool in the tool belt was really, really impactful. It was like 30 minutes. It was just fast and furious.
Yeah.
Having to share that next
Very
week.
cool, yeah.
It was really getting to some really cool stuff to augment the stuff we've been talking about.
Yeah, big strategic stuff. It's so hard when you're trying to figure out that tech stack, right? Like, where does things fit in? I think it's a lot of what we've heard in the conversations.
Yeah, and just another tip for our colleagues out there who are delivering sessions. What I heard you say is make it relevant, make it pragmatic, and you don't need a whole hour to share great stuff and make it real.
Yes.
Yeah. What I think one comment was that, and I alluded to it before, but apparently when you buy something on Amazon, you touch 72 different systems.
Oh.
And you have no idea as an end user that you're touching all those systems, and I don't care.
Yes.
Me as a HR practitioner on building our employee experience, I don't want to have to integrate 72 different systems to make that happen. But it was tangible. It was like, oh, that's something that I do every day.
Yeah.
I said on Amazon every day, but
Of course, we all do.
I never buy anything on Amazon.
Buttons,
Like,
I
don't know how many boxes are sitting on my front porch right now. But
This is not an ad for Amazon.
hopefully they're not getting blown away in there.
Yeah, right. Well, thank you guys. This has been a great overview of everything. I know, Cliff, you haven't had a chance to kind of give your 2 cents. Anything favorite or new this year that you were surprised by?
I'm very much like Susan in that I love going to the startup Orellano or whatever they rename it to, and getting a sense for kind of what's new. I mean, we're in that business of trying to know what's happening and express it. And I notice the services a lot and sort of going for niches. And what that tells me is that there's all of this, from all these big companies, there's still some need for these services. Whether it's, we're doing retirement, or we're doing just education and managers in that space. And okay, well then clearly they're not finding that need. They need to create their own company.
So one size does not fit all, right?
Where did I hear that? So it's been really wonderful. I do love the connections, and I remember last year, Danny, you had come up to us. We had chatted, on email.
Yeah.
Came up, first one in line, received the book, and now here we are, years later, industry
Working
veteran.
together.
Yeah.
To get to the front. Okay. Okay, I'll get my gift card.
I do enjoy the friendships that can be made here, because it is neat. It's cool just in general to see how it's expanded. We've got everything from stakes to visual analytics and strange AI programs. We're on the cutting edge, but at the same time, the world of HR is expanded so greatly, and what that means to work with people yeah, it can be a little intimidating when you're trying to do, probably are going to have 27 systems. I don't want to scare you.
Yeah.
But that's the way it works. But at the same time, it's neat. It's really like how big of an impact you can have in this field.
Yeah, I think, it is surprising every time I come here that I find something new that I haven't thought about that is an HR thing. Like, I think last year, I think it was some of the Uber stuff. I was like, oh, that's an HR thing, right? Here, we talk about food and the compliance, and it's not all just technology. It is also about like how do we create that experience that works for employees. Guys, this has been such a good session. I hope we can repeat next year, or if any years you guys come back. For our audience out there, do we have anybody new coming in yet? No, okay. No, we were waiting for someone else to join. For our audience, I just want to say thank you for joining us here. We love having everybody get a chance to hear a little bit of on-the-ground feedback on what's happening in the session. A couple of quick, I think, updates on other things that you might want to be aware of that came out of the session. One is we are going to do a replay plus little addition to the session that we did here on HR technology, launching the Voice of the Customer segments of the HR System Survey on October 31st when we launch the full paper. So if you missed it here, you get to see it in the webinar on October 31st.
Special Halloween episode.
I might have bought a really cute costume just for it. So,
now we have to all get costumes.
Oh, here we go.
I know, sorry. Terry, I believe we've been talking with Danielle about maybe doing not a recap, but maybe some sort of a follow-up to the conversation you've had on data governance,
we
right?
don't have anything on the schedule yet, but we want to do a webinar and maybe a podcast and get that out because that, just seeing the energy behind that topic was amazing.
It was huge, yeah. We are getting ready to do a skills workshop. We'll probably do that in webinar form because I know this group here has already told us that skills are a really big topic. So we'll probably be doing that as well. But thank you guys. Any additional questions or things you'd like us to find out next year, put them in the comments and we'll be sure to do it. So everybody, bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.